Hi, I wanted to take just a few minutes to walk you through the research essay topic page, just to kind of show you around and consider what is coming up soon for you. So this week we will begin working on your research essay. And while it'll be a few weeks before you're actually writing your research essay, I thought it would be smart to introduce you to the topic before we start moving into those smaller activities that will prepare you for writing your full paper. So here's what your research essay topic page says. We'll just go directly to instructions. For your research essay, you will develop a research topic related to a problem you identify in Central Florida related to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which provide a shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet now and into the future. At its heart are the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, which are an urgent call for action by all countries developed and developing in a global partnership. They recognize that ending poverty and other deprivations must go hand in hand with strategies that improve health and education, reduce inequality, and spur economic growth, all while tackling climate change and working to preserve our oceans and forests. So you have four options from which to choose with the SDGs. You can choose SDG 5, gender equality, SDG 6, clean water, SDG 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure, or SDG 12, responsible consumption and production. And what you're going to do is you will pick one of those, and then you will identify a problem or a need in Central Florida and propose a set of solutions or actions that we can take locally to work toward meeting the selected SDG. So if I'm thinking about our local Central Florida area, and if you're not local to Central Florida, this is an online class, so you might be somewhere else in the state or the country, or maybe even outside of the country. You can localize it to your area where you live. That said, please drop me a Canvas message letting me know if you're not going to be working under the confines of Central Florida because you don't live here, just so that I know that you know what the assignment is supposed to be and that you are making a choice based on where you live. But so you're going to come up with a problem that you're seeing related to one of these. So with clean water, it could be that there are areas that struggle to have clean water and you want to find a solution for that. If it's industry, innovation, and infrastructure, you might be looking at the infrastructure within the town. Maybe that has to do with public transit. That's a type of infrastructure. Maybe it has to do with roads and what needs to be constructed or repaired or whatever the case may be there. So you can kind of look at these differently, and there's lots of different avenues. And if you click on these links, it will then take you to a web page that is focused on what that SDG is, and it kind of explains it to you. And you will use the page specific to your SDG when you are doing your paper. All right. So let's go through the approach. It says approach. Read about the SDGs that are linked above and decide which one interests you the most. Then consider Central Florida and how that SDG could be advanced in our area. If you currently reside in a place outside of Central Florida, you may choose to do your project on that place, but you will want to have that approved by the professor, which was what I was talking about a moment ago. It may be helpful to come up with a specific problem. For example, if I were to research SDG 1, which is no poverty, I might want to consider how downtown Orlando could incorporate more programs to make sure all people have access to food. Keep in mind, though, you are limited to working with the 4 SDGs listed and linked to above. So you are expected to either use 5, 6, 9, or 12. Those are the 4 that you are required to operate within. So it goes on to say, once you have a problem you have identified, you will then conduct research using the Valencia Library to find solutions for the problems or need you have identified that would help our area improve the SDG you have selected. The goal of your essay will to be to write an argument following the classical argument structure, presenting the problem you have identified and proposing a set of solutions that encompasses the 3 pillars of sustainability, which include the social, economic, and environmental impacts of our actions. Okay, so that was a lot of information. First and foremost, you will use the classical argument structure. If you click on this, you'll get more detail on what that is. But in the next section where I talk organization, if you do what I'm laying out for you there, you will have met the requirements of the classical argument structure. The other thing is the 3 pillars of sustainability. And in coming lessons, you are going to learn about what the three pillars of sustainability are and how each decision we make impacts each of those three pillars. And when you are thinking about your solution to the problem, you will have to explain how your solution will impact each of those factors. So the social, the economic, and the environmental impacts of your solution. That's the lens through which you are going to consider as you are looking for a potential solution to the problem you see within the SDG that you decide to choose. So for organization, again, I mentioned that classical argument structure. There are 5 basic elements. You'll have an introduction, which will be 1 paragraph, a narration that will be 1 to 2 paragraphs. And in that section, you would present your issue and any background about the problem, the place, or the SDG to help your reader understand the importance and need for a solution. Then you would have a confirmation, and in that section, you will present your case, providing solutions to the problem and evidence from your sources to support your proposed solutions. It will be in this section where you'll dive into the 3 pillars of sustainability by explaining your proposed solution with the social, economic, and environmental impacts considered. If it were me and I were organizing this essay, I would have 1 paragraph introduction, a 2nd paragraph that provides any additional information on the issue or background. In a lot of ways, your intro and your narration kind of operate together. Then I would have 3 paragraphs for the confirmation. I would have one that provided my solution and looked at it through the social pillar, one that looked at it through the economic pillar, and one that looked at it through the environmental pillar. Then I would have 2 to 3 paragraphs after that provided a counter argument and a refutation of that counter argument. So you would acknowledge that, some people might push back against your solution, but here's why it's actually effective. Or you might have to concede, yes, someone with an opposing viewpoint might have a legitimate concern, but still we need to consider making progress. And then finally, you would have a conclusion paragraph. So that brings me to the requirements of the assignment. First and foremost, you will be required to use 5 researched sources. You will have 3 articles or books found through the Valencia Library database or catalog, and 2 credible websites. One of your credible websites will be the Sustainable Development Goals specific to whichever one you choose. So if you choose SDG 9, you would use that source in your paper, perhaps as you're telling us what that SDG is. Some of that information there can be valuable to you for you to help build your argument. This essay will have a 1,500 word minimum, and you're going to look at having 7 to 9 paragraphs. And again, it must follow that classical argument structure, which I've outlined up here. So if you have that 1 paragraph intro, 1 paragraph narration, 3 paragraphs for your confirmation, 1 to 2 for your refutation, and 1 paragraph for conclusion, you're going to hit that 7 to 9 paragraphs. So if you think about it through this way, that's how you will make your paragraphs. Please follow this outline. It will make it much easier on you to A, make sure that you have the required number of paragraphs, and to B, make sure you're hitting everything you need to hit, introducing things properly, providing background, providing your solution through the lens of the 3 pillars, acknowledging and refuting counter arguments, and then concluding in a way that is valuable. Please, again, follow this organizational pattern that I've outlined for you. Additionally, the other elements that you'll see here are pretty similar to what you saw for your first essay. You'll have a thesis statement. You'll have body paragraphs that include a topic sentence that relates to the thesis and that is something you plan to prove in that paragraph. You will include evidence. This essay will, have 5 different sources that will need to be synthesized. The best papers use those sources not paragraph by paragraph, but by synthesizing different sources within the same paragraph, showing how the sources being used intersect with one another. You'll have a works cited page, and then again, you're going to use third person. So he, she, it, they, not I, me, my, we, our, you, your, yours. You're going to avoid those. You will use present tense with the exception of when something happened in a previous time in history. And then you'll want to make sure you proofread and edit carefully before you finish your final draft of your paper. A couple of notes. Your topic must be approved by Professor Faulkner, which will happen in your feedback during the topic pitch assignment initially, and then it'll be finalized in your feedback for your annotated bibliography assignment. What that means is early on, you are going to pitch a topic related to the SDGs that you would like to consider doing your paper on. I will tell you you'll pitch 3 topics. I'll tell you which one I think you should move forward with. And then when you do your annotated bibliography assignment, which is due not this coming Friday, but I believe the Friday after that, if I'm not mistaken, I think the 28th, there you will show that you have found 5 sources that follow the requirements, that they're good sources, and that you're on the right track. And so long as you're good there, you'll definitely be approved. I can't think of but 1 or 2 times that we made it to the annotated bibliography assignment and a student's topic had to be reconsidered at that point. Usually you pick one you pitch 3 in the topic pitch assignment. I tell you which one to move forward with, and then you're fine. It's very rare we've needed to make changes there. And then I provided your deadlines for this assignment. We will do a little bit different than our first essay. You will have a rough draft, a full rough draft and peer review that you will go through, as opposed to just doing the introductory paragraph, rough draft, and peer review. It'll look a little bit different this time, but I think you will get a lot from it. All right, so this is all of the just going over the topic guidelines for you to kind of consider at this point. I hope that in addition to watching this video, you read through everything carefully. I encourage you to look at that sample classical argument paper. I will also be sharing with you a sample paper that doesn't necessarily follow, it's not about the SDGs. It's not the same topic, but it is a paper that will use the classical argument structure, and I will go over that with you in a separate video once we get a little bit closer to actually drafting the essay, because we still have about 2 weeks before you're really working on writing the essay itself. We have some other projects coming up between them. A couple of things about those due dates. You will have a little video from me for most of these assignments as you're moving forward to let you know what they're all about. But the one I want to bring your attention to is the annotated bibliography. You will have a video that shows you what that should look like. You should watch that video when it gets closer to that assignment. But here's the thing I want to tell you about the annotated bibliography, and you will either see me in the weekly email or in other videos reminding you of this. The annotated bibliography requires you to find all of your sources and to write about those sources and how they might be helpful to your paper. It will take you a fair amount of time to work on that assignment. So it's due on October 28th. I would get to work on it well before October 28th. Once you have that topic pitch assignment approved, I would start looking for sources so that you're not caught off guard once you make it to that annotated bibliography assignment. All right, so I'm going to stop here on this video, and I will talk to you a little bit later on in a later video.